Hello, my fellow human beings, and welcome to episode 105 of The Best Blessed Life. I'm your best host, Kristen, and today's topic is I'm gonna mocha some brownies for you with a latte icing on top. I think that's one of my best ones yet. I really liked it. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. Please continue to watch, comment, share, like, subscribe, ring the bell, and please pass them on to anyone you think that they would help. With that being said, we're going to go over things to do today. We're going to do our daily inspirations, of course, and then we're going to talk about the second part of Let's Book It, because we finished the book, Magnus and I did, and then we're doing brownies and coffee. And what goes better with brownies than coffee? And then, of course, as a friendly reminder, I make every recipe for you for the very first time. I've never made them before. I'm sure other people have, but not me. Never. Ever. If you can't tell, my audio didn't work, so I'm dubbing. And so I'm trying to remember what I said. But here I'm talking about my surprise that I was hoping was going to be there for the last time I filmed. And it was actually there later that same day. I got it for my birthday. I ordered for myself. I got a really, really good deal through Costco. And I didn't stay with the KitchenAid this time. I have a lot of reasons why, but I really liked the way this looked. It's a digital mixer, which I kind of think is fun. I still haven't learned how to use it yet, and you won't be able to tell, but I'm kind of working my way through the steps and trying to figure out how to use it to make the icing for the brownies. But I stayed away from KitchenAid. I got a Cuisinart. It's a nice tall bowl with one lovely handle. And it actually has measurement marks on the inside, which I thought was really nice. I also like that it's much lighter than my KitchenAid. And it's more compact. And I just wanted to try something different. But right now, I'm going to read for you the daily inspirations, and we're starting with July 28th, which is my mother-in-law's birthday. So happy birthday. We miss you dearly. The 28th is direct observation of a luminous essence of nature is for me indispensable. Robert Delaunay. The 29th, you have been called to be who you are, the whole luminous light. No one can dim your light when you are fully present to the depth and breadth of it. Debbie Ford. That's one of my favorites. The next one is, to me, life, for all its privations, is a luminous thing. You have to risk it. Jeanette Winterson. July 31st, to me, music is a luminous experience. Whenever I'm immersed in it, life lights up for me no matter what else is going on. Not going. And I'm going to say that pink is going to be that for me on Monday. The 1st, we come from a dark abyss, we end in a dark abyss, and we call the luminous interval life. Nikos Kazantzakis. Sorry, I butchered that. For the 2nd, life is not a series of gig lamps symmetrically arranged. Life is a luminous halo, a semi-transparent envelope surrounding us, from the beginning of consciousness to the end. Virginia Woolf. The 3rd, at sunrise, everything is luminous, but not clear. It is those we live with and love and should know who elude us. You can love completely without complete understanding. Norman MacLean. August 4th, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. John F. Kennedy. August 5th, gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Melody Beatty. The 6th, gratitude is not only a virtue, but the parent of all the others. Marcus Tullius Cicero. The 7th, live a life full of humility, gratitude, intellectual curiosity, and never stop learning. Gaza. For the 8th, gratitude helps us to see what is there instead of what isn't. Annette Bridges. For the 9th, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. William Arthur Ward. For the 10th, gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Henry Ward Beecher. And for the 11th, a good leader takes a little more than his share of the blame, a little less than his share of the credit. Arnold H. Glasgow. and that's today's. I think I must have sped through them a lot faster. I cannot believe I couldn't tell that the video wasn't recording a sound, so I'm really disappointed with the fact that I have no idea where I am in this whole process, but we are going to be doing that book review that I'm really excited about. Excuse me. And it was a really good book. It had a lot of twists and turns. It was very well written, a lot of emotions, but I'll get into that after I'm done reading these daily inspirations. Apparently, I read them a lot faster now than I did then. So just bear with me until I finish. Again, with the mixer, it was a really good deal through Costco. So I'm really excited about it. And it's really quiet. I could talk to you guys through the whole thing. It was beautiful. I could talk. I could whip stuff. It was amazing. Oh, now I'm going to read the recipe. Hopefully. I don't know what I'm doing right this second. I'm waiting. But they're mocha brownies with a cafe latte frosting. And I believe it's considered a buttercream frosting. So it's 5.5 ounces of dark chocolate with 60 to 75% cacao, half a cup of unsalted butter. I just use salted. 1 tablespoon of instant coffee, and I used espresso. 1 cup of sugar, and I used my Moreno sugar. 1 tablespoon of vanilla. 3 eggs. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And 2/3 a cup of flour, and that's that rice flour I use that I like. That's a good replacement for wheat or white because it's white. And then the frosting is 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of instant coffee, 2 to 3 tablespoons of whipping cream, 1/3 cup butter, 2 cups of powdered sugar. Preheat to 350. Line your 8x8 with either parchment or foil, and I did the foil because it formed to the pan a lot easier. And then I sprayed it with some nonstick spray. And then in the microwave bowl, we add the butter and the dark chocolate, and you nuke it for about 45 seconds on medium. I didn't do the medium. I didn't listen to myself, and I had left the butter out, so it was soft. So it was 45-second interval for me. Had I left the butter cold like I was supposed to, it would have taken a little bit longer, and I could have done the next round of 45 seconds with the 0.5%. And then using the spatula, you carefully fold in the flour and the salt. Pour the batter in a pan, bake 20 to 25 minutes or until the top is set and the toothpick comes out clear. And then with the frosting, I can't see what I wrote. So what it is in the mixer, you cream your butter for a minute, and then you add your powdered sugar, I believe is next. And then, you had pre-made off to the side the whipping cream with the coffee and had it dissolve. And then once you blended the powdered sugar with the butter, then you added that coffee mixture. And I ended up having to add quite a bit more coffee. I actually made coffee shot in my Keurig and ended up using some of that, but I'll explain that when I get further down the road here. Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to read my mind here and what I was doing besides making a huge mess. I'm rereading some of the recipe, I think. And I ended up putting the sugar into the flour bowl by accident, so I have flour everywhere. You know me, it's never a dull moment of picking up messes. And then even doing this, I think I spill it everywhere. But then I end up, do I end up doing the butter and chocolate in there? I don't recall. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I'm getting a measuring cup. A glass measuring cup usually works better, I feel like. And again, keep your butter cold. That's going to help a lot because it should have technically melted slower. So the gloss and the shine on it, I feel, is better when you do it that way. So I'm putting the chocolate in there, and then I just cut up the butter into like 4 chunks, basically. And just dropped it on top, and it was one round of 45 seconds on high, unfortunately, because I didn't follow the directions. She said on medium. And normally when I'm doing chocolate, like when I make my mousse, I do this in batches. They tell you to do a couple tablespoons at a time. But she didn't really give me those same directions, so I think I just put it all in there. But at this point, it had been out for a while, getting room temperature, a lot of things. Me not thinking that I was using the butter to make chocolate for the brownies. Now, I used dark chocolate chips, and they did not have a percentage on them. But they're pretty dark. I get them from Aldi, and they're nice, good size chunks. So, in all actuality, if there was some big chunks left in there, I probably wouldn't have been too upset about it. I don't know what I'm doing here except moving my hands around. I really do wish I knew what was going on. I think I'm explaining how I should have done it at medium temperature. And I'm wearing a bandana today because I didn't want anybody to see my new hair until after the Pink concert. Don't ask me why. That's what I'm explaining now. I got my hair done for the Pink concert on Monday, but I don't want to show it to anybody yet. I don't know why. I want it to be a surprise, I guess. So, I'm so excited. I'm trying to remain calm. But, I don't know. It's not working out very well. I still haven't decided what I'm going to wear yet. Yeah, see, our chocolate and our butter is pretty much all melted. It does get, to the right consistency. It was just like really too melty at first. So I splattered it a little bit, I believe. You know that adage I have about, never trust a chef whose apron is clean. Well, I think it's time to clean my apron. I'm looking like a sloppy chef, which I am. We all know that, but I don't need to advertise it. So yeah, it's starting to thicken up here as I'm stirring. And I'm just using a spatula for this part. I do think they say something about a whisk. I think we're whisking everything else in there. So we're now adding the coffee, the sugar, and the tablespoon of vanilla, I think. Let's see. Let me see if I'm right. Oh, yes. We're switching to the whisk. So I think I did the sugar first because I use that Merino sugar and I feel like it's a little bit thicker consistency. So I wanted to use it while I still had the opportunity that the chocolate was still kind of warm and would dissolve it a little bit. I think that backfired on me a little bit because I don't think it really did as much as I thought it was going to. And there at this moment, I think to myself, I should have kept the spatula over there. But it's just sitting in the sink on the butter paper, waiting for me to go get it, which is coming now because... Oh no, we're not doing the flour yet. But at this point, I think I decided to put the sugar in the big orange bowl and then dump the chocolate on top of it. Because I didn't think I was going to get all of it into that measuring cup. I mean, I probably could because there was only like 2/3 a cup of flour, which is not a lot. And I was explaining here how I'm a baker that is kind of I overly try to get all of the stuff out of the bowls and out of all of the utensils. And I was saying the whisks drive me crazy because it's so much harder to get like whipped cream and cookie batter and stuff out of the wire. There I'm dumping in the instant coffee. Sorry if I'm making loud smacking noises. There's no sound in here, so it's kind of... This gets pretty hard to stir pretty quickly. So it's a nice arm workout. I put my hips into it in a little bit. If you don't remember, I mentioned that we preheated to 350 and we prepped our 8x8 pan with foil. And like I said, I used the foil. They also recommended the parchment. I used the foil because I like that it's not super long. Like my parchment paper is super long. And it doesn't stay formed to the pan unless you spray stuff first. So that's what was nice about the foil. And then you just lift the foil, right out of the pan once they're cooled. All right, here I go, whisking, whisking, whisking. I don't know what I'm saying there, but I think I was trying to be funny. This is what happens when you don't have a script to go by and you just wing everything. And your microphone doesn't work. You end up, I don't know, improving. All right, so now we're doing the eggs, and they wanted us to do them individually. I don't think I mentioned this when I was reading the recipe. And then they each get whisked in. She really didn't give directions about how long you were supposed to whisk them for before you put the next one in. I was assuming just to get rid of like any remnants of the actual egg, so it was combined. And then my eggs are room temperature as well, so I think that helps with baking. I'm not really sure if it helps more with certain things than others. I guess that's a good thing to look up someday. So I'm trying to get as much of it off the sides. It's starting to get thicker now, so really hard to whisk. See my hips? I'm doing the twist there. And then I got my fingers stuck. I got my fingers stuck in the whisk. And then I got chocolate all over my hands. Darn it. I'm going to have to lick that off. All right, so this is where I'm supposed to whisk it until it gets glossy. Which, because of the sugar I used, I don't feel like it got super glossy. And I don't know if that's because I didn't use white sugar or if it's just because I didn't let it dissolve enough. At this point, too, it's like every time I'm stirring and I stop, I notice that it does have a gloss to it. So at some point, I think I would have stopped earlier. Because the end result is, we haven't tried it yet, but I feel like it's pretty hefty, dense. And that might be due to over mixing. Especially with that flour that I use. I really like that flour, though. It's a nice substitute for a lot of them. I think I'm talking about the flour there, but I don't remember why. Oh, we're supposed to fold in the flour now, too, which for me, a brownie doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think that's what I'm talking about here. Because they're fudgy brownies, they're not like a cake brownie. So the rise, there is nothing, no leavener to get it to rise. So I didn't understand the folding process, but I do switch to a spatula here shortly. See, this is where I think I went on too long. And my arms are about ready to fall off. But it was a nice arm workout. Okay, so this is where we start folding in the flour. And I mix the flour and the salt together. And just kind of stir it a little bit. It's so weird with no sound. Oh, and I talked about that I had to help Magnus today because he had a tooth loose and it was bothering him. He kept walking around the house. It looked like he was licking air. So I said, "All right, come here, buddy." And I grabbed a paper towel and it just came right out. I didn't even have to like pull or anything. I'm like, "Oh, we get to put this under your pillow. Maybe the tooth fairy will come." All right, so since I didn't use a lot of, there's only 2/3 of a cup. I think I only did it in 2 batches, so I split it in half. Just so I could get most of it incorporated before I added the next bit in there. And I'm not really folding so much as just trying to make sure that everything that was on the sides, it might not have gotten mixed from the bottom, kind of gets incorporated. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use a mixer for this part. I really honestly don't know why. And not that you need one, but I think it would help with the, I don't know, getting things incorporated faster so that not over. See, right here, I feel like I'm over mixing, but I also know the flour is not fully incorporated yet. For how little we used, it took a good bit of folding to get that incorporated. So there I was kind of like, there has to be a more efficient way. And yes, I put the flour in the bowl while the bowl was still wet from the dishwasher. And again, I feel like I've already overdone it at this point. But again, the flour is not mixed yet. So I don't know. I would definitely try these again because the flavors are there. I haven't cut them, so I don't really know yet what the insides look like. But I also wish I wouldn't have done it like the extra. I think I'd have done an extra 5 minutes because the all the way down to the bottom was still a little too moist. But might have cut that in half and done like a couple extra minutes. And then maybe left them in the oven with it off and just let it pick up that little bit of residual heat. My goodness, I am stirring a lot on this one, aren't I? Okay, this is the point where it's like, Chris, put it in the pan already, okay? You overdone it. I could be talking about the book right now. I don't really remember. But I do say that there was a lot of twists and turns and things that I thought were one way, which is the perspective of the girl in the book or the main character in the book. And in fact, so many things were turned around and people knew things that she didn't know. And I don't want to give too much away because I want people to really see not just the culture, but like how it affected families and the things that they went through as girls, as young as 6, getting their feet bound and essentially getting their mate picked for them at that time, and how the main character's mate was of a class up from hers, which doesn't normally happen. But because of this special bond that she has with this other girl who ends up, they put them together as a Lao Tong, which is a old same, they call it, which basically you're essentially made to be best friends for life, kind of. And they got their feet bound together, and they did many of their courtings and all the stuff leading up to their marriages. They did all that together. There's a secret writing they do called Nushu that they write on these fans. A lot of it is just characters, and some of the characters mean so many other different things. It was really interesting to find out how they communicated back and forth with each other because they lived like the next town over, so they weren't essentially that far, but they were not permitted to like just travel. Women stayed in the home, I feel like I read. And there was this upstairs chamber that when they were in their rice and something days or hairpinning days, there's so many different sections of life that they call it, like your teenage years where you're where you were writing about your future spouse and you were letting people know in other characters, trying to make it poetic what it was going to be like to be married and have children, and starting at such a young age. I think they got married at 17. And the main character who married up wasn't treated that great by her mother-in-law, but her husband was, I don't know, kind of indifferent, which is saying a lot when the other girl, Snowflower, was the one treated poorly, and she was actually married down because her father became addicted to opioids and essentially broke the family. And so they appeared on the outside as if they were upper class, but everything on the inside was basically a opioid den. It smelled horrific. They had no furniture. They barely had food. And she was passing herself off as someone more upstanding when she went to visit her BFFFF forever. And yeah, it was kind of a messed up situation, but I could see how things got misinterpreted at times. But then things also got withheld, and that's not good. Here I'm trying the chocolate. It's so good. I could eat that whole thing of just brownie batter. Dip something in there. I think it would be good if you added other things to it, like maybe some extra chocolate chunks or just some semi chocolate chips, just to change it up a little bit. Then, like I said, we're gonna cook. I think I cook that for 20 minutes for the first bout. And then we're gonna make the frosting and talk about the book some more. Yeah, while I lick the bowl. It's so good. It's such good flavors. But back to the book. I wish I had marked some kind of profound things that happened or pages that I could read to you. Like I said, I don't really want to give too much away because I don't want the surprises and the twists and turns to be kind of revealed. But needless to say, back in those days in the 19th century, Chinese women lived to be maybe middle to upper 40s. And she dealt with a lot of, there was typhoid. I think it was typhoid. And then there was also war. So there were 2 times there where she was really kind of pulling herself up by her bootstraps, kind of. And I really wish I had marked some of those moments. I might go back into the book and see. Now, I also talked about the fact that there was like a study guide in the back of this book. It had some questions. I wasn't that impressed with the questions. They asked about just, I don't know, basic stuff. And I feel like when you connect with a book, like, there's nothing like it. You don't want it to end, kind of, or you hope that there's a new beginning or another one coming, even if it's just a one-off. You feel like it should be, oh, this is where I find out because I preheated my oven to 350 and had my butter towards the back of the, by the digital display. Things get hot back there, and it melted my butter, and it got my new mixer cord a little toasty. But luckily, I was able to move it out of the way. So here's where we're combining our heavy whipping cream with our coffee, and my coffee is stuck to the bottom of the Tupperware container. And I don't know if it feels kind of cooked on there. I mean, it's hard as a rock. I don't get it. I don't know what happened. So I pour the kind of warm cream because it's been sitting close to the back of the oven and hoping it will help dissolve some of the coffee off the bottom. But I'm going to end up wearing some. Just you wait. It's going to flip up on me. because it is like super glued to the bottom of this container, and I don't know why. It's perfectly loose the day before when I got it all ready. So I think it's got to have something to do with, there it goes. There I got splashed. But it must have something to do with, maybe I had something stacked on top of it. But it also was pretty stuck to the spoon as well. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I'm trying to clean off my apron. I'm also kind of letting the cream rest for a minute so that it can help. I'm such a mess. Help get some of that stuff off the bottom. Even then, this is part of the reason why I ended up making a shot of coffee with my Keurig. So it's like 1.5 ounces, but I only think I used about 3 teaspoons, maybe. And inevitably, I ended up adding more powdered sugar and butter as well. And I feel like that butter wasn't as room temperature, so it didn't mix as well. Now, at this moment in time, I might have been creaming the butter. I don't know yet. Or I did already, and I was creaming it while I was talking to you about the book. But because the mixer's bowl is so tall, it didn't really cream it all that well, just because it was so flat to the bottom. It was only 1/3 of a cup of butter, so it was kind of hard to use the mixer for that part. So I do believe I went through and scraped some of the butter off and kind of mixed it some more. Yeah, there's where it's stuck to the spoon. It just turned this weird texture. And I gotta think that it has to do with it being heated up without having water in it. I don't know. Yeah, see, that whole time I was creaming my butter and was able to talk to everyone, and it wasn't loud at all. It's very quiet. So far, I like it. I don't know what that was. Was that? Yep. I guess that was me putting the butter. I haven't creamed the butter yet. I guess I wanted to dissolve the coffee in the cream first. This is where I go, let me see if I remember how to use this thing. Because I only experimented with it. This was the first time using it. Actually making something. So I was trying, there's several different settings. And in the one I was in, I wasn't able to turn it up to go fast enough. But that took me a while to figure out that there was no speed on that one per se, I don't think. At least if there was, I couldn't find it anywhere. I just got to get used to the turning of the knob and which direction does what thing. Because that will help a lot. Yeah, see here, this is me trying to finagle it. I might just pause here, I think, if I remember correctly. I'm assuming I'm still trying to get the thing to cream at a faster speed is what I'm doing. And I thought I had paused the video so I could read what I was supposed to be doing. But no, I sit here and finagle with it on camera. It is very touchy because the system is like you turn it one way and it's resume, and you turn it the other way and it's stop. And I don't think some of my turns were registering, so I kept stopping it and having to restart it. So here's me with my book. And I think I'm going to put it on pause now. Maybe not. I guess not. I've still got big clumps of the espresso stuck to the spoon at this moment in time. And the nice thing about this mixer too is it had timers on it, different programs. So here, creaming the butter for a minute, it timed it. I walked over there. I'm like, oh, we're at a minute. I can stop it. And then I scrape. Now, that is one thing I might be a little bit like leery of, because like if there's not much in the bowl, then it kind of really doesn't do much to what's in there. But it finished off the frosting nicely. So I'm hoping that's a good sign. I'm going through the recipe now to see what I'm supposed to be doing. So the powdered sugar, I believe, is next. But I am still attempting to try and get the coffee dissolved into the cream. And here I wish I had kind of sifted my powdered sugar, because they had a lot of like clumps in it that kind of were a nuisance when mixing it. I used to have, I could use that wire kind of strainer that I have. I like how you unlock it and lock it, but like I said, the mechanism when you lock it up in place comes back down a little bit. And it's very tricky because you think that it looks like it's going to fall on you. And it doesn't. It locks, but this is me getting powdered sugar everywhere, because that's how I roll. And, this is the part where I'm also scraping, because the butter is still kind of adhering to the bottom of the bowl, and the powdered sugar is just kind of not flailing around super high or anything, but it is not really combining with the butter. That's what's nice about the bowl, at least, that with the KitchenAid ones, they were shorter, and you almost needed that like flower funnel cap thing on there. Oh, that's another thing I got with this one. It's a little plastic like chute, if you will, that you can drop your stuff in. I forgot all about that. I have big plans for this mixer for the I forgot to talk about this actually on the episode. For the year-end finale, 3 years, third year, how do I want to put it? Year 3 finale, there we go, is coming up. And so I've got a couple things planned that I'm going to do. So, and the thing I'm going to make is gonna test our mixer for sure. I've got to be close to being done with the mixture of the sugar with the butter. It is taking a smidge, though. It looks kind of pebbly, which is why I'm irritated by the texture of the powdered sugar. So, at this point, it's not too mixed, but there's no going back as far as it being kind of bumpy, lumpy frosting. So yeah, year 3 finale coming up shortly. And then I'll probably take a couple weeks off And then we will start year 4. Wow. That sounds so weird. I'll have to come up with 3 new challenges. This year's challenges were challenging. I will not lie. Pay yourself first. I have every good intention of doing that every day. And then the sentimental journal, I think I'm going to carry that over into the next year because I know it works. It's a draining process. I know it's draining for a lot of people. So I don't want to make excuses. I didn't do my challenge, especially that one. And then the strengthening the body over mind, that one, I pretty much live with every day. I do try to make sure everything moves, everything thinks, you know. I try to make the brain think about the body moving, and I also try to get the body to move to get the brain to think about just everyday things. It's surprising what we forget about in our everyday movements because they become so routine that you go from one day to the next and you go, wait, did I do that? Or was that yesterday? Anyway, so I am adding the coffee cream mixture now, which I get splattered all over me again, I think. I'm really trying to get most of it off the bottom because it is still kind of sticking. I think I sneezed there. God bless me. But I'm going to get back to the book here shortly, as soon as I let you know what's happening. So after this, I mix it for a smidge to see just how coffee-esque it is. And I'm not real pleased with the color because I feel like it should be darker. It's coffee. I'm grading it on that level alone. And when I first try it, it is very much a mouthful of powdered sugar and not a lot of coffee flavor. And she does say to hold back a half a cup of the powdered sugar to see that your mixture is the right consistency. But I knew I had already used the 3 tablespoons of cream into my coffee because I used the highest amount of coffee too, which was 1.5 teaspoons, to kind of counterbalance each other out. You know, you have that really strong coffee flavor balanced with the heavy whipping cream. And then you get a big mouthful of powdered sugar. Because you're just trying to sample it just to see what it's like, and the spatula is mostly sugar. Look at me. I'm like, I don't know. I'm tasting it, but I'm not tasting it, if that makes sense. I think I'm doing some more mixing here. Yeah, I think I decided to mix some more. I also come over and make a shot of coffee. And I'm doing half teaspoons at a time. So I think I either use 3 or 4 teaspoons total. I'm like, I think I have more food on me than trying to get it into my mouth. But it's not good unless you make a mess, right? I'm debating here what I'm doing because overall I don't think I'm pleased with the color. So there's Snowflower and the Secret Fan. And it's about 19th century China, like I said, and the customs of these 2 girls. Such a good read. And such a positive experience for the first book that we picked out to do. And I'm going to go over the second book with you in a little bit as well. because Magnus and I are almost done with that second one as well. It's a true story, so I find it pretty intriguing. Oh, this 20 minutes must be up. So I'm testing the texture, and I decided to do the extra 5 minutes. And here I start with I also think in my head that this hot coffee is going to help dissolve, some of the idiosyncrasies of our frosting, which isn't necessarily the case. Trust me on this one. If I find a way to mess it up, I mess it up. But you don't know until you experiment. That's my theory. This is what I know not to do the next time I make these recipes. I haven't carried through a recipe like in a while. Like there was the brownies versus the blondies where I tried to recreate and do it twice and make the brownies better. But that seemed to backfire on me too. So, I did talk about the pound cake from 2 weeks ago and how the flavors were really good and the cheesecake in it was cool. But it was such a dense cake that I decided to chop it up into cubes. I had quite a bit of it left. Chop it into cubes, and I think I'm going to do some sort of bread pudding or something like I did for the eggnog bread that came out a little dense. Because it worked out really well when you put that kind of eggy custard on there. And I think it would be really good with, I don't know, I'll figure out something. Maybe some strawberries or something, since it's a cheesecake one. And I probably should have cut back on the time frame for cooking that one as well, because I do believe I added, I don't remember. I added quite a bit of extra time, I want to say. Maybe 10 minutes. And I probably should have added about 5. So here I am going back to put a few more of the half teaspoons in. Again, trying to dissolve some of the sugars and the butter, and while the theory is good, I do believe there's a better way to make this frosting. Start with espresso that doesn't stick to the bottom of your container that you put it in. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what I do with the pound cake. That is not what I'm making for the final episode for this year. I'm doing something new for that one. If I can find my pan, I'll give it my best shot. But if plans go the way they're supposed to, then I will be making 2 things. Okay, so now here I'm scraping down pretty much all of the excess coffee that sprayed all around the bowl while I was adding it to this mixture. And okay, I think I did mention this, but I do want to say that we do cool these brownies completely, although I don't follow directions on that one either because I want to sample it for you guys. But on a wire rack still in the pan. And then when you frost them, you just lift it out by that aluminum foil that comes right out. Okay, beating some more. Now, I think at this point, no, I haven't started adding the extra powdered sugar yet. I don't think I do all of that on camera either. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. I don't think I do all of that on camera either. Because I let some more of the time tick off of the timer. And that is when I add the extra 5 minutes. So that's done off camera, I believe. If I recall correctly. I can't wait to figure out more to do with this mixer because there's so many different settings on it. There's 12 speeds on this bad boy. And all of them sound so nice and smooth and quiet. I'm a little closer, or a little bit more pleased with the flavor profile there, I think. But the texture itself was a little thin. So I'm about ready to pull out some extra powdered sugar. Here I'm testing it, and I do believe it pulls out with a little bit of chocolate still on it. So here's where I make one of the flaws, because it's still got quite a bit of chocolate on it. I wish I would have. Now, I don't know if that's the first 5 minutes or if that's the second 5 minutes. I've started my hot flashes up again. I was explaining on here that, I can go months without having one, and then all of a sudden I get groups of them, and I'm having them this week. And I started this video with all the windows open and this beautiful breeze coming in. And then I started cooking and talking and flubbing, and see, here we jumped. It's pretty dense. And I do believe I'm talking about letting them cool, but that I was going to sample. And then here I'm explaining a little bit more about the book, and that how I'm going to do this. If I like the book that I read, I want to pass it on to someone else. And if I don't, then the rule would be that those books go back into the lending library or the free book pile at the regular library. But I do want to pass this one on. I do think I know who I want to give it to, but I'm also going to write my name in there and the date, I think, and just a little blurb of why I passed it on to this particular person. It is quite the emotional roller coaster. I can't remember crying so hard at a book, except for one other one. That there's so many things that resemble things to me that this is why I connect so strongly with this book. For no other reason. No customs or rituals or not crazy, but for the times, such a hardship of a life, no matter whether you were upper class or not. Just the foot binding alone is a crazy thing. And how they called them their golden lilies, and the smaller and the higher the arch, the better. And then I talk about the new book, I think, when I come back. I might take another pause, I think, so I can sample it. I could be wrong. I feel like there's another pause in here somewhere, because it's still pretty warm at that point. And I'm trying to think of the name of the other book, and I'm hoping I can get up close enough to remember what it is. But it's something about tomorrow speaking. Gosh, I wish I could remember. Here I am trying a little bitty corner of it. And dipping it in the frosting. It's got good flavor. I still didn't taste the coffee at that point, I don't think. I'm trying to figure. I think I'm here talking about how fudgy they are. I could be wrong. I'm trying to realize what I'm talking about here. I think it's about the coffee, the frosting not being that coffee-y, and that it's kind of getting too soft. And now she's going. I'm another person. I'm trying to read the title. When Tomorrow Speaks to Me. I can't read the whole title. I'm having Peyton send it to me or read it to me or something right now. But this book is about a true story about an Irish medium. I do like the spiritual aspect of this book. I don't know which one you wanted, so I grabbed all of them. The ones that were on the couch. It's called It's When Tomorrow Speaks to Me is what it's called. It's a great book. She has a lot of trials and tribulations in her life. She has quite the unusual relationships with men and her mother and just her siblings. She doesn't talk about a lot. She talks more about her 3 kids and what an interesting dynamic that is. And it's quite interesting to think about what she goes through because she sees so many of these spirits just out every day and trying to decipher who is actually really a real person and one who's just spiritually crossed over, and realizing how the spiritual ones are not connecting with the real life people and so on. So yeah, she saw a lot of the big time things happening in life, like accidents with her family and people who are crossing over, and airplane crashes, train crashes, 9/11, and some of it had to deal with her own family. So it was really hard for her to know when people were going to leave this world, and at such a young age. She knew quite young. She was probably about 3 when she first started seeing Harry, who was her uncle, probably her main spirit guide, until she meets her future husband's grandmother, and she kind of guides her through the rest. I'm not done yet. We're almost done. I want you guys to have a good day. Go do great things. Be your best self, and please live your best blessed life. Sorry, I rushed to finish that, but I'm getting to the end. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all you guys' support. I love y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye.